Oh, and welcome everyone. I apologize. I was not ready. So welcome on in. Happy what is it? Shit, Tuesday to you. And boy, do we have a day. We have some stuff to cover. Um, I'm aware that of course everyone wants to jump on the hot news and give you a hot take, but hopefully if you made your way here, you appreciate the take that we have, and we're going to dive deep on into some things today that I think you'll be interested in. I'm calling it Delphi Debunking the State, i.e., this is not normal. And please let me do a quick sound check. Just a moment. Okay, and so good news for all of you regular viewers. It appears that today I had an epiphany regarding the sound and what was wrong with it. And I may have been able to fix it. We'll see how this turns out. But I think we're going to be doing better with the sound. But let me go ahead and welcome everyone into the show tonight. And then we'll get to some business. So first of all, let me say hi to Amy, and thanks for being here early, Amy. And we got Court of Public Opinion. Jim Chrisman. Plain Iron. Paula. L'Oreal. Laura Naran. Heather Brown. For baby daddy. Tracy Fleetwood. Jay Lynn. Okay, Bonnie's here. Oleg Katz here. Miss K's here. Pam Sheehan. Dirty Diana. Birdie 81. Mixamighty 1. JR Nana Boomer. Tammy Martin. Dawn Steele. Aaron. It's a New Day. Marianne Foster. Artist formerly known. Kayla. Angel Kripe. Okay. Sweet Dude Chibi. We got Sarah. Mrs. P. Lena. Mimi's in the house. Nancy Drew 101. Okay, C. Mare. We got Linda K. Johnson. Oh Hey Christina. Susie. Okay. And hey, I may have missed someone. I hope not. But if you happen to be lurking, go ahead and join the chat. I'd like you to join the chat. It'd be nice to have you in the chat. So please do join the chat if you're a lurker. It's nice in the chat. People are nice to you in general. So let that be nice. Go ahead and join the chat. Four Pits of America is in here. All right. Welcome, everyone. And boy, there's been some drama in these YouTube streets. I tell you what. And there's also some drama out in that world. And there's some drama in the I don't want to even get into it. But apparently there's rules that I don't want to follow over in the Reddits. Okay. So before we get started, let me just lead off with some really nice breaking news. Okay. And that breaking news is from Marion County, Indiana. So let's read it. It says, in a dramatic turn of events, Adrian Mehring, the executive director of the Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission, is now facing a criminal complaint with 4 felony offenses in Marion County Superior Court. The complaint, filed by Gabriel Whitley, alleges that Mehring has engaged in misconduct by abusing her position for political gains. According to the criminal complaint, Mehring has been accused of 1. Abuse of position for political gains. Whitley claims Mehring has selectively enforced disciplinary actions to favor certain individuals, notably Abdul Hakim Shabazz, who has been accused of multiple infractions under Indiana law. These include lying to the police, obstructing justice, perjury, and official misconduct. Yet Mehring allegedly did not pursue these allegations with the expected rigor. 2. Selective prosecution. Sounds familiar? The complaint further asserts that Mehring's decisions to prosecute and or not prosecute are influenced by political affiliations rather than legal merit. This pattern is particularly evident in her handling of cases involving high figure profiles like Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, against whom 3 new disciplinary charges were recently filed by Maring's office. We call that lawfare. Evidence of bias. Number 3, public records cited in the complaint suggest a lack of diligence in investigating complaints against Shabazz, potentially due to his political connections. Whitley points to communications between Maring and Shabazz as evidence of possible bias or conflict of interest. Causes of action listed in the complaint include official misconduct, allegations that Maring's actions constitute official misconduct by leveraging her position for personal or political advantage rather than for impartial administration of justice. Perjury, if Maring has made false statements or omitted critical information in her official duties. She could be charged with perjury. Look out, Carroll County. Obstructing justice, by allegedly protecting certain individuals from legal scrutiny. Maring may have interfered with the justice system. Look out, Carroll County. Political persecution. This complaint suggests that Maring's enforcement of disciplinary actions is politically motivated, thus amounting to persecution rather than justice. These are all level 6 felonies. The complaint has stirred significant attention given Maring's role in overseeing attorney conduct in Indiana. When reached for comment, Maring's office, of course, did not provide a response. This legal challenge comes shortly after Maring announced charges against Attorney General Todd Rokita, which include accusations of making false statements and engaging in dishonest behavior. The juxtaposition of these events has fueled debates about the integrity and impartiality of disciplinary actions within Indiana's legal system. Whitley's filing seeks to bring light to what he perceives as a misuse of power within one of the state's most pivotal legal oversight bodies. As this case develops, it will likely draw scrutiny to the practices and motivations behind the Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission's operations. The court has yet to schedule a hearing for this matter, and all parties involved are expected to watch this closely, considering its implications for legal accountability and public trust in judicial oversight. Well, let's just say what you may be looking at is the crack in the dam. Okay, the crack in the dam, or the tip of the iceberg, as a look into corruption in the legal system in Indiana. Gets brought to the surface, and let me just say, as I mentioned, I drew your attention to in that the similarities to what has happened in Carroll County and with the Delphi murders investigation and prosecution of Richard Allen is uncanny. And so let's just hope that this is only the first in a series of actions that seek to investigate the operations of the criminal justice system in Indiana, because we all know that there's something wrong here. Now, let me say this. Today, your minds will be blown because we have a new filing today by the defense, by Mr. Baldwin. And you know, I've been rightfully critical of Mr. Baldwin's performance in the defense of Mr. Richard Allen. I think mistakes were made. Okay, but that's not to say that I am anti Mr. Baldwin or at all critical of every action he's taken. I believe that he may be trying to right his course because, you know, clearly there were mistakes made all the way up to closing arguments, and maybe now reality is setting in with Mr. Baldwin and his team, and people can place things in the right context. And I think that what you're going to hear today is part of that. Okay. I think it's one of the best first matter of fact addressing of some of the problems with McClelland and the court here that we're dealing with. And you all have to keep in mind, and I know it's hard. I know it's hard for us to keep in mind because, see, you and I out here, we're not bound by any sort of standards of legal practice and legal ethics in the state of Indiana. So we're free to speak as we see fit. But keep in mind that Mr. Baldwin and others, there are particular ethics guidelines that they have to be walking in between, or more so to say, there has to be it's more of a tightrope. It's an ethics tightrope that these attorneys have to follow, especially Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Rozzi, where they're not free to speak as openly as they'd like, because criticizing the judge or the prosecutor in any substantive manner is frowned upon, as you know. So Mr. Baldwin walks this tightrope, and he tries as much as he can to let his opinions be known within the constraints of the legalese that he's forced to speak through into adhering to these ethics standards, especially when it comes to criticizing Judge Gull. That's almost impossible. So anyway, I was very happy. Let me just say this. I was very happy. So what this thing is called, it's called the Allen's Verified Reply Memorandum to State of Indiana's response to preserve and produce and request for sanctions. Okay. So whoa. Okay, I almost lost my screen here. There we go. So we'll try to keep on track with this. I'm going to try. Okay. In other words, I guess what I'm getting at is he can't speak as he would like to. You know what I mean? Good old okay. So let me get the ball rolling here. All right, here we go. I think I'm good to go. So I've done all of us somewhat of a kindness here in highlighting the most important points that I saw as I read into this. So as we go through it, don't really worry about reading it, except the highlighted portions you may want to pay special attention to. Okay, so this says, this is Allen's reply to the state of Indiana's response to Allen's motion to preserve and produce and also request sanctions for the state's violation of Carroll County local rules concerning exculpatory evidence. In support of said motion, Allen states the following. Okay, so here we go. The journey begins. All right, let's see. In his response, well, let me start with this. The prosecution's response brief provided proof that the state of Indiana failed to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense. Now, that's odd because that's sort of shooting yourself in the foot, is what he's claiming, that McClellan shot himself in the foot, so to speak. Okay, let's see. It says, in his response, the prosecutor glosses over the fact that he was in possession of letters that he failed to turn over to the defense before trial, even though in a February 13, 2025 email, he denied possessing such letters. Okay, so check it out. McClellan glossed over the fact that he was in possession of letters that he failed to turn over. Okay. McClellan also has no explanation as to why a letter from Davis from October 15th, 2024 is missing and cannot be found. Remember when I read it, I think it was just yesterday. I can't even remember when we did this. No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a couple shows ago. I made that comment. I said, where is that other letter? You know, he says he can account for 3 and he provided 2. So where's the third? You know? Instead, the prosecution spends the majority of his response denigrating defense counsel. Prosecutor McClellan is not the arbiter of exculpatory evidence or whether he has an obligation to turn it over. The law is the arbiter. Quote, exculpatory evidence is defined as evidence tending to establish a criminal defendant's innocence, close quotation. Carroll County Local Rule 18B also requires McClellan to turn over exculpatory evidence. Based upon his February 28, 2025 filing, we now know that the state of Indiana had certain letters in its possession in October 2024, but failed to turn those letters over to the defense until February 28, 2025. The prosecution only produced those letters after the defense sought those letters, being forced to file a motion to produce those letters after the prosecution failed to admit being in possession of those letters. And look, you guys will notice this has been a constant with Nicholas McClellan. And when I say that these people are operating in bad faith, it should absolutely be a given at this point. If you're a troll farm and you happen to be watching this and you refuse to admit that the prosecutor is operating in bad faith, you need to go take a long, hard look in the mirror. I mean, remember, not only did they delete 70 days, that's right, not 70 interviews, not 7 interviews, not 10 interviews, not 7 weeks of interviews. 70 days of interviews completely erased, deleted. And like I said, there's no telling how much evidence has been disappeared that there was no accounting for, so we'll never know. Well, it could be, I don't know, it could be 70 documents. It could be 700 documents. It could be 7 pieces of forensic evidence. They could have deleted family cell dumps if they did any. They could have deleted any of the fingerprints, DNA evidence, DNA swabs they had taken. Look, you don't know what has disappeared from this whole deal. But on top of all that, refusing to turn over the bulk of discovery until 9 to 14 months past when was required. I mean, basically, handing over the bulk of discovery just months before the scheduled trial, and then having that discovery be completely disorganized within all of the hard drives that were handed over. And then, on top of that, refusing to hand over information and discovery and evidence that the defense specifically requested, like all of the Todd Click, Odinus, Patrick Westfall, et cetera, all of the stuff that they played stupid with, including good old Jeffrey Turco, trying to hide him, including having the Odinus guards remove their patches from their uniforms once becoming aware. Okay. Remember, refusing to allow depositions that were important to the defense. Just so many things over and over and over. And every time this prosecutor, in bad faith, did these actions. And not just that, when the Supreme Court forced these attorneys back into Richard Allen's corner after the judge had unethically compelled them and threatened them to have them withdraw their representation, Mr. Allen, McClellan further went and tried to have them found in criminal contempt so that they would be arrested and jailed. You tell me how normal this is. Remember, prosecutors are supposed to be a shining example of fairness, justice, transparency, ethics, all of the things that this legal system should stand for. Prosecutors are the front lines of that. So when do you have a prosecutor that behaves like this one? He acts more like a criminal than the criminals that he's supposed to be prosecuting. And the way that Baldwin says this, which I think is rich, okay? This is rich because this right here is what I love about this document. The way that Baldwin handles shining light on this is pretty stellar in this filing. He says, the behavior of the state is consistent with a pattern of behavior that has greatly impacted the defense and Richard Allen's constitutional rights throughout the entirety of this case, as will be recounted later in this memorandum. A pattern of withholding exculpatory evidence may lead to a reversal and a new trial. Prewitt v. State, Indiana Court of Appeals, 2004. Quote, this case illustrates what happens when the state engages in a pattern of withholding exculpatory and material evidence from a defendant prior to trial. Listen, like I said, anyone denying that this is what this prosecution has been doing needs to take a long, hard look in the mirror. It's absolutely clear to everybody. That's why when we're going around these YouTube streets, we're seeing the tide turning. We're seeing the majority of people waking up to the fact that this is a railroading and this is a corrupt endeavor, that this is a combative prosecutor, and this is a biased judge, and this is a dirty deal. And they're criticizing the families for going along with this. And it's rightfully so, because it's so blatantly obvious that even newcomers in the public are seeing it. And hey, even Richard Allen is guilty people are starting to flip and come on over because they're seeing for themselves how bizarre this is. And hey, if withholding this exculpatory evidence is not enough for you, I want you to question and ask yourself, what about the deleting of 70 days of evidence? Do you not think that that was potentially exculpatory? In Prewitt, the Court of Appeals reversed the conviction when, soon after the conviction, the defense counsel learned that the prosecutor failed to turn over evidence to the defense prior to trial. Boy, wouldn't Judge Gull in Carroll County be butthurt if this conviction was overturned or reversed? Okay, defense theory. Now, guys, I got to tell you, I've been very critical of this defense because of the errors they made. I've not been at all shy about that. I've also been critical of their theory of the crime from the Frank's memorandum because of how narrow of a focus it was. Okay. But I must admit to you, I agree with the gist of it. Okay. And I think that the thing is that the defense's theory is just the tip of the iceberg, and that the story is a bigger story that involves more people. Okay. But obviously, if you would use some critical thinking and some logic, probably what happened is that's part of what they deleted was the peripheral, probably what's missing from this defense theory because of what was the way that it was framed in the Frank's memorandum is because the evidence that would have told the better story or the more complete, the whole story, the fuller story, that evidence is probably in large part was deleted among those 70 days and among the blatant deletion that we don't know. I don't know why I'm losing. Looks like I lost the camera for a second. We don't know. Like I've said, we don't know what's been deleted. I tend to think that there probably were footprints. There probably were fingerprints. There probably were more fibers. There may have been more evidence on cameras, like trail cameras and other security cameras. They may have done phone dumps on the family. But I'm kind of assuming here that they disappeared all that shit, and that because there's no accounting of it, the defense has no way of knowing it's disappeared. It's not like a calendar where you can say, oh, by the way, we have 70 days from this calendar are missing. All right. Anyhow, that's a big prelude to go into this section here called defense theory. And I'm just trying to say that this is an area where I'm in agreement for the most part, except that I would broaden or expand the theory. And I may do that as we continue. Okay, so it says, at Allen's trial, the defense indicated that that the evidence suggested or supported that on February 13, 2017, the victims were abducted, taken somewhere else, perhaps in a vehicle, and then during the early morning hours of February 14, 2017, after the search parties had left the area, were ultimately transported to the location where they were found on February 14, 2017. So let me comment on that. Yes. I'm actually surprised that the defense knows this much. It's a miracle. Be honest, you guys. It's a miracle that the defense can say this much, that they put this much together. It's just a fucking miracle. At Allen's trial, the defense indicated that the evidence supported that on February 13th, 2017, okay, listen to the points. Again, the miraculous points they put together. The victims were abducted. Check. Taken somewhere else, perhaps in a vehicle. Check. Then, during the early morning hours, which would mean it was dark, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., were ultimately transported to the location where they were found. Check. Now, parenthetically here, he says, after the search parties had left the area. Well, no. No, bud. No, Mr. Baldwin. Not all the search parties. After some of the search parties left the area, when only the inner circle was still there, that's when the shit happened, because I believe some of your searchers were some of your killers. Okay. Further, the defense's theory was that evidence strongly supported that, quote, multiple people were involved in the abduction and murder of the victims. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Another miracle that this defense has at least been smart enough to put this together. Okay. Multiple people were involved in the abduction and the murder of the victims. Absolutely. You see, you have to be thankful for what you got. Okay. So the defense theories were detailed in the defense's opening statement and throughout trial, or in offers to prove from August 1st, 2024. All right. Now we're going to go into fantasy world. What is fantasy world, Prof? Well, fantasy world is the families and the state's theory of the crime. You know, bridge guy. Fantasy world is basically the fairy tale that the family and Gray Hughes have been telling for all these years, and then the troll farm picked up, and then Nicholas McClellan picked up, and everyone just had a big old party and said, "Hey, let's give the fantasy world version of this crime, and maybe we'll get a conviction." We have done psychological warfare in terms of a PR campaign for 5 years about Bridge Guy, Lone Wolf Killer Bridge Guy, this bad guy, and the smart victim filmed this bad guy, and then this bad guy kidnapped the smart victim and her friend off the end of the bridge, ran him across the water, and killed him. Yeah, let's just go with that fantasy world narrative that Gray Hughes fabricated. Sounds legit to me. I mean, of course they were going to prosecute with that narrative because they had invested years of public relations to influence the potential future jurors. Let's be real here. I mean, if you guys don't know what's going on with this case yet, you're going to have to get up to speed. All right. State's theory. Let's go. Fantasy world. The state's theory was that in some order the following events occurred. It's hard to even read this without laughing. Apologize. There's nothing funny about this. It's just I have to laugh to keep from punching the computer and knocking it over and cursing and yelling and never doing this again. The killer, acting alone, Bridge Guy, after running or briskly walking across a bridge, that bridge, by the way, which is not the best to run on. After running or briskly walking across a bridge to catch up to the girls, since he was not seen in the 207 photograph anywhere on the bridge, was seen on video, walking casually and not panting like a 45-year-old overweight man with a heart condition who had run across the bridge, then abducted the two victims, walked or slid down a steep hill with those victims, Then, in a panic, after observing a van, which, by the way, wasn't there until 15 minutes later, but that's aside the point, corralled those victims across an active chest-high creek that was probably 30 degrees while holding a gun. And then both victims somehow were undressed, disrobed. But then the younger victim is later redressed in the clothing of the older victim. And the lone panicked killer murdered one victim and then the other victim without anyone hearing any screams, in spite of sound traveling very well throughout the area all the way to the bridge. Then this lone panicked killer moved the older victim, who was 200 pounds dead weight, from one area to another area next to a tree without leaving any drag marks, which would indicate that he carried her from one place to another. All that activity, according to the state's theory, occurred in a 19-minute time frame between 2:13 and 2:32 p.m. when the older victim's phone stopped moving, having been placed under a shoe under the young victim's body. And remember, the van had not even appeared yet. Okay, the van was still 10 minutes away from this location. And then after, the state's theory was that this panicked killer then took time to place sticks on top of the victims' bodies in particular patterns as depicted in the crime scene photos, patterns that resembled what Jeffrey Turco said someone's idea of what Germanic runes or Germanic runic script would look like. And in spite of his panic, he hung around the crime scene for over an hour, despite being panicked by Brad Weber's van, who could clearly see right on down to that property where these girls were found. Yeah, he malingered around there for an hour. Then he exits the crime scene before he chose to walk westbound toward his vehicle in a bloody outfit, knowing that he would be in full view of any vehicles traveling the road and in full view of the home of the Mears. After having killed the victims an hour and a half earlier, he's completely covered in mud and blood. But somehow, even though he's witnessed, he manages to get in his car completely covered in mud and blood and not leave a single drop of blood in the car. The state's theory was not that multiple men and women were involved in the crimes, but one man alone committed all these acts and did so on the afternoon of February 13, 2017. And then somehow, miraculously, for 19 hours, not one person sees those two girls' dead bodies. When you allegedly had over 200 searchers scouring the area for 19 hours, which included about, I don't know, let's say 7-8 hours of daylight. Does it sound like a fantasy or a fairy tale to you? Oh, I forgot. Thank you, Jake Brooks. And there are no defensive wounds on either girl, although the weapon is a knife or two. He manages to not leave one shred of DNA, although there's plenty of other male DNA on their bodies that's unidentified. He somehow controlled them. He somehow left the phone that captured his own image. What am I leaving out? Somehow through all of this, a strand of the sister's hair ends up wrapped around Abby's finger, pulled out from the root, and manages for that entire morning and that entire journey across the creek and that entire murder, the entire struggle, never releases from her being wrapped around her finger. Have I left anything out? And for some reason, let me just add this. For some reason, he decides to treat both victims extremely differently. Okay, one victim is brutally murdered. It's bled everywhere and is totally nude. The other victim is as clean as she could possibly be, with a minimal amount of blood loss and the cleanest, most surgical type of wound right in the side of the neck that you could imagine. And she's fully clothed, and she's left there as if she's in a casket or something. Very respectfully. Can you imagine? All right. Moving on. Reese Davis letters provide exculpatory information that supports the defense theory and negates the state's theory. Yes, it does. We covered that recently. Let me figure out what those shows were called so I can make you guys aware you need to go watch the replay. I believe I called it McDouche Pickle at it again. I don't know. I can't even keep up with whatever I called it. But I basically did a show on the Reese Davis letters and Keegan Kline and Ron Logan and all of that. All right. Reese Davis letters also provide other information that the defense could have utilized for trial or to support its request for third-party suspect evidence to be admitted into evidence. Yes, in other words, having had, and this has to be explained clearly, having had those Reese Davis letters and videotaped interview, Baldwin could have used that material to go back to the judge and request those third parties be admitted, to say, look, judge, now we got this stuff to add weight to the third party. So we need to get Keegan Kline, Brian Haas, Reese Davis, Ron Logan. We need to have them admitted because remember, they were excluded from presentation to the jury, which kept the jury ignorant of the truth. Okay, let's continue. And essentially, it handicapped the defense from providing a defense. And it was done knowingly. I guarantee you. Everything, that's what I mean about a bad faith. Everything this prosecutor has done has been done intentionally. It's been done knowingly, in bad faith. This is corruption. You are staring corruption in the face. In Davis's letters that the state of Indiana did not turn over to the defense before or during trial, Reese Davis stated that Keegan Kline, a key suspect in the case, confessed to the murders. Oh, yes, he did. And he's not the only one, y'all. A key suspect confessing to the murders is exculpatory evidence. And there's no way that McClellan can come back and say Keegan Kline was never a suspect in the case. He was a key suspect in the case. He directly confessed to David Vito. A key suspect confessing is exculpatory evidence, as it tends to establish a criminal defendant's innocence. At a minimum, Carroll County local rule required McClellan to immediately turn those letters over to the defense, even if he believed that the letters did not need to be turned over because of Davis's claim that Richard Allen was involved in the crimes alongside Klein and Logan. And please try to keep up with us here. Carroll County Local Rule 18B. Let's read it. It's in the footnote. Okay. Additionally, McClellan's claim that he was not obligated to turn over the letters because of Davis's claim that Richard Allen was involved is not a judgment call for McClellan to make. Richard Allen was at home on the evening of February 13, 2017, and the morning of February 14, 2017. Well, this is according to Richard Allen and his wife and his alibi. And, now Prof is not completely convinced of that, but let's just continue. According to Davis's letters, Klein indicated that Allen was with them during that night and morning, assisting in the murders. It is McClellan's obligation to turn over exculpatory evidence to the defense and let the defense determine how to proceed. Yes, and look, let's be clear here. Maybe Reese Davis did not understand who Klein was talking about as the third person. So let's kind of just put Richard Allen on the back burner right now, and let's exercise some critical thinking real quick. A thought experiment. What if Klein does know what happened here with these murders? And what if Klein was telling people some of the story about what happened to these murders? Okay, well, let's read it with that in mind, excluding Richard Allen and just putting a blank down in the narrative and say some other guy. So let's try that one. Let's say, according to Davis's letters, Klein indicated that some other guy was with them, meaning him and Ron Logan, during that night and morning assisting in the murders. Starts to make sense now, doesn't it? Starts to make sense. Because remember, what's the concept here? The concept is that over the course of that night and early morning, the girls are unalived, brought to the location. They're dumped, or at least one is dumped and the other one is killed right on the spot. But all of this occurs between midnight and 4 a.m., roughly. So if we read it that way, again, according to Davis's letters, Klein indicated that some other guy, could be Allen or who else, who knows, fill in the blank, some third party was with them, meaning him and Ron Logan, during that night and morning, assisting in the murders. That's rich. Sounds feasible. When police or prosecutors conceal significant exculpatory or impeaching material in the state's possession, it is ordinarily incumbent on the state to set the record straight. So the question is not whether the defendant would more likely than not have received a different verdict with the evidence, but rather, in its absence, he received a fair trial understood as a verdict worthy of confidence. The jury in Richard Allen's case was out for nearly 4 days, a very lengthy deliberation period. So what he's saying there is that the question is not whether the defendant would more likely than not have received a different verdict, but the question is that in the absence of this evidence that was withheld, did he receive a fair trial, meaning a verdict that's worthy of confidence? In this case, Kagan Klein's confession to the murders, and also Kagan Klein's claim that Ron Logan was involved are clearly exculpatory statements. These were the two most likely suspects during the investigation. Remember, and let me just add on to that so that you understand that that's not hyperbole. Remember that the FBI honed in on Ron Logan immediately. The FBI did a thorough search of his property immediately. He was a primary or the primary suspect. Then things shifted towards this Anthony Schatz account, which primarily focused on Kagan Klein, who is verified to have been communicating with both of these dead girls. That's when the mention of Anthony Schatz came out, and the ISP was asking for anyone who had contact with Anthony Schatz, and they referenced the Dropbox opening the biggest case in Indiana history. Okay, then the story surfaces that there's a second user to the Anthony Schatz account, and nothing but speculation and lies follow. Because in my opinion, to this day, we do not know who was that second user of the Anthony Schatz account. Now, Kagan has someone he says it was. Do you believe him? Other people have assumed who it is. Do you believe them? Or do you think that that second user of the Anthony Schatz account would be the most highly guarded secret in all of the Delphi murders community? I promise you. The second user of the Anthony Schatz account is the most closely guarded secret in all of Delphi. Especially considering the fact that now we have Jerry Holman admitting that the Anthony Schatz account lured the girls out to the trails that day, the very day they were murdered, in an apparent murder-sacrifice. Okay. If it could be shown that Ron Logan and Kagan Klein knew each other, that would be significant. It would be a significant fact for the court to consider when determining matters of third-party suspect defense, and also for a jury to consider. Well, let me just stop right there and just say outright, Kagan Klein and Tony Klein absolutely knew Ron Logan. There's zero question. You know how we know that? Because Kagan Klein told several people that he trusted that was his dad's friend. Ron Logan is Tony Klein's friend. The fact that Klein also implicated Allen would not have been of concern to the defense, as the defense knows that Allen had no linkage to either Klein or Logan, allegedly, and also because the evidence supported that Allen was with his wife the night of February 13th and the morning of February 14th, when Klein is claiming Allen was with Logan and Klein committing the crimes. Well, allegedly, I don't know what proof exists of that. Had the defense known of the information contained in the Reese Davis letters, it would have renewed its motion for third-party suspect defense regarding Klein and Logan, and would have further investigated those claims. And that's what I'm saying. Perhaps the defense would have sought a continuance to investigate the ties between Logan and Klein. Well, that should have been done immediately. Like I said, the defense messed up majorly. And I think everyone needs to get to a place where they can acknowledge that. The defense could have argued that Kagan Klein knew details of the crime that no one else knew, and furthermore, that he was protecting an unknown third party by claiming that Allen was the unknown third party after Allen's arrest. Well, that's that's the concept. Okay, that's the concept there. That's basically the concept that Keegan is protecting someone. Now, is it because he's afraid? Or is it because he thinks he's so smart he can game the system? Because in my opinion, yeah, Keegan's protecting someone. And I think it's more than someone. I think people are being protected here. The defense could do none of that, as well as any other number of legal, strategic, procedural maneuvering, if it was in the dark about the contents in the letters, while the prosecution was fully aware of that information. Yeah. You see, that's been the whole game here. That you keep the defense completely unaware of any information that they could use to establish reasonable doubt. Trust me, I've said that in the prior show. I said, in my previous show, I said the goal of the state of Indiana and the troll farm was to debunk, disappear, and discredit anything that could give rise to reasonable doubt. Okay, that's how they were functioning. It's a strategy. It's a game strategy that they were engaging upon that has proven successful. It shows you that this was not just dreamed up overnight. Okay, this was very well thought out. That we have to totally erase reasonable doubt from the potential future jurors and from the defense team. Because remember, the goal here was to, by keeping it from the defense, you keep it from the jury. And just think of all that was kept from the jury. Like I said, they made it so that this jury only had one choice. In other words, I'll put it like this. If they were going to get justice for the girls, they only had one choice, and that's him, Richard Allen. All right. But this has been a pattern for the prosecution. This is why this whole thing needs to go down. That's what I'm saying, that this entire structure needs to go down for this. It really does. This needs the most comprehensive investigation that Indiana has probably ever embarked upon. And it's probably going to take the feds to do it. The details that Klein provided to Davis add to the exculpatory value of those letters. On page 4 of one of the letters, Davis claims that Klein detailed that the girls' bodies were moved 3 times and that they were not killed where they were found, and furthermore, that their bodies were staged. These are facts consistent with the defense theory and the facts that oppose the state's theory. Furthermore, in a letter, Davis claims that Keegan Klein detailed how the killers got nervous and left town in their own cars, with at least one of them going to Lafayette to get rid of evidence. It's known that Ron Logan went to Lafayette at some point in time to purchase exotic fish after having asked a relative to assist him in creating an alibi. These are all facts that Reese Davis would not know, but that the killer would know. All of those facts tend to establish Richard Allen's innocence. So let me back that up. First of all, as we're going to get into the future as we go through the occult references in this case that are just they're everywhere. Fish is one of them. Okay, I truly do believe that they chose to say he was shopping for fish as part of this ritual. Okay, shopping for fish, looking at fish, big fish. It's just one of the many occult references and pedophile references in this entire case. But we'll be getting to that at a future point in my conspiracy presentations. But what I find interesting here is that Klein details that the girls' bodies were moved 3 times. Well, let's erase bodies. Okay, let's say that again. So let's not say the girls' bodies were moved 3 times. Let's say this: the girls were moved 3 times. Okay, all right. How about this? They're abducted and they're brought somewhere to hide. That's once. Okay? A place is figured where they can be sexually exploited. So they're brought somewhere else that's safer. That's twice. One of them is killed or extremely badly injured, and a decision is made to kill the other one. So then you move them down to the crime scene. That's 3 times. And I believe there is where Libby was assaulted. So perhaps when Klein is saying they moved the girls' bodies 3 times, he doesn't really know what he's saying. He means the girls were moved to 3 different places, the third being their final resting place there. All right, let me continue. That's my input. In the second letter, Davis claims that back in 2018, he reported that the victims' throats were sliced. This is something that only the killer would know. Well, no. Let see. This is where I constantly butt heads with both sides here. That was not something only the killer would know because all the locals knew it. Look, let's be real here. This is what happened in this community. The searchers took pictures and talked their asses off after these murders. So all the locals knew a lot about the crime scene. I talked to a local immediately after Alan's arrest, and she said, Prof, their throats were sliced. Abby was laid like she was in a casket, and Libby was completely disrespected. And there were satanic symbols at the crime scene and on their bodies. How would a local know that unless the searchers were going around talking for years? Okay, let's continue. He also stated that he reported that the girls were hidden in a barn. Okay, that's one of the movings. Okay. And remember, where did Megan Allen say she was assaulted? In a barn, in a gray barn. Megan Allen also said she stuck a knife in one of the girls' necks to see what it would feel like. You still think it's a game? He stated they were also driven around at some point. Well, like I said, If they're brought from A to B to C, they're driven around. This is consistent with the defense theory that the girls were driven in a car at some point and held somewhere until search parties had left the area. Well, like I said, the innocent search parties. The innocent search parties left the area, and then boom, they bring the girls back to the crime scene. This is inconsistent with the prosecution theory. Oh, you bet your ass it is. You bet your ass it is. Remember, they've called us conspiracy theorists from day one. There's still people in the defense who call us conspiracy theorists. Do you understand that? There's someone who's running around YouTube, running their damn mouth right now, like he knows everything about this crime, and he don't know shit. But he's a defense hero. A defense hero who echoes the state's theory of the crime almost verbatim. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What a hero. On page 3 of that letter, Reese recorded that Kagan Klein told him that the scene was staged, and furthermore mentioned that the girls could not be moved because the search parties were everywhere throughout the night at that time. Yeah, and remember this? Remember Eric Williams saying that Capitano shooed him away and wouldn't let him go over to Ron Logan's property? Roughly. Remember me saying that the inner group of searchers basically cordoned off the area, kept everyone innocent out of that area so that those girls' bodies could be brought in? So the girls could not be moved because the search parties were everywhere throughout the night at that time, meaning that the girls were moved to the place they were found only after the search party left the area. Yeah, after the majority left the area. And let me ask you, since we're here in the timeline, when did those horrific screams happen? Oh, that's right. That's right. After 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. That kind of lines up with this theory, doesn't it? So search party leaves the area. Girls are brought back. A horrific scream occurs. Police refuse to respond because they're busy at the moment. This is just as the defense claimed, thereby supporting the defense theory and negating the state's theory. In his February 12, 2025 interview at Newcastle, Reese Davis provided further details that he claimed or believed that he also provided to the prosecution concerning details that Kagan Klein stated to Davis. In that interview, for example, Reese Davis claimed that Kagan Klein stated that the girls were handcuffed to each other. After seeing after the meeting, defense counsel O.J. Baldwin and Matt Hoffman viewed the crime scene and autopsy photos to determine whether there were any indicators in the victim's wrist that would support this information that the victims were handcuffed to one another. The admittedly non-expert eyeballs of the attorneys and investigator observed straight lines on the left hand of the wrist of both girls, which, if true, could indicate that one victim walked immediately behind the other with each of their left hands handcuffed to each other so that they could not easily run away. Question for you guys. Remember this story about Tobe Lesenby losing his handcuffs? Am I wrong on that? Losing handcuffs? I mean, sort of like Pat Brown losing keys to the truck. Continuing. If the defense had received these letters, it could have learned these facts from Davis during a deposition if they weren't contained in the letters, and then had experts view the same photos to determine whether the photos were indicative of the girls being handcuffed. Well, let's just say this. If those girls were handcuffed and if there are marks on their wrist to prove so, and if you had Abby with a handkerchief or something like that over her mouth so that she couldn't scream out, is it starting to make sense how you could control those girls and move them around? Thought experiment. I think you understand what I'm saying. I guarantee you, what happened to those girls was so much worse and so much more horrific than any of us have ever imagined. That's the gut feeling that I have. Had the defense known of the Kagan-Klein statements to Reese Davis, it could have brought both Kagan-Klein and Reese Davis in for a deposition after hours or during the weekend while the trial was occurring. These depositions could have revealed additional information, including whether at some point in time Kagan-Klein finally admitted that Richard Allen had nothing to do with the crimes, as Reese Davis stated to counsel during a jail interview on February 12, 2025. And also to show that Kagan-Klein's claim about the activities of the third person involved with him and Logan was inconsistent with Richard Allen's whereabouts the night of February 13 and the morning of February 14. The defense likely would have called up Kathy Allen to show that Richard Allen was at home during that time frame and was not with Logan and Kagan-Klein. Now, here's a question. Did Kagan-Klein admit that Richard Allen had nothing to do with the crimes to Reese Davis? Because this is what Reese Davis stated to Andy Baldwin during a jail interview on February 12th, 2025, which is only, how long ago was that, guys? Like 3 weeks? So the concept being that at some point, Reese Davis is claiming Kagan-Klein said, no, it's not Allen, it's someone else, but we're just glad it's Allen because that makes the heat off. That gets the heat off of me. See, that's been my theory all along with Kagan-Klein. They all, and it's not just Kagan-Klein. Look, it's Brad Holder and the whole group. They want Richard Allen to make this go away so everyone is left alone who did this. Everyone can breathe easier, right? Additionally, the defense could have asked the Department of Corrections to provide video from the very pod where Reese Davis and Kagan-Klein were housed to determine whether Klein and Davis were frequently talking with one another, as Klein has apparently stated in State's Exhibit 4 that Klein has only talked to Davis maybe 2 times. Yeah, so that's another point that I loved from this is, look, clearly the video from the DOC would show how often Kagan-Klein and Reese Davis were speaking. And we can determine who's the fucking liar here. Okay, because look, I have no skin in the game. I don't give a damn. I'd like to see the facts. Let's see. Let's see if Keegan and Reese only get together and have a chit chat once or twice or three times. Or let's see if Keegan and Reese Davis get together for like 5 weeks straight, 15, 20 times. Let's see the frequency of their communications. I'd like to see that. Let's see who's lying about that or misrepresenting it. If the video shows that Davis and Klein talked to each other well beyond 2 times, then it could have determined that Klein was lying. Whereas if the video showed that Davis only talked to Klein 2 times, then it would have shown that Davis was lying. Either way, the defense had a right to those letters to conduct its own investigation concerning the veracity of the contents of those letters. McLeland's claim that he did not turn over the Davis letters because he made his own determination that the letters were not in fact exculpatory denied Allen and his attorneys the opportunity to conduct its own investigation from information contained in those letters and to determine what to do, if anything, concerning the content. So let me read that again. I got a little distracted. Basically says that the defense had the right, and by defense it means Richard Allen had the right to investigate the veracity of the contents of the letters, because McLeland can't determine on his own what is in fact exculpatory or not. Allen had the right to have his attorneys have the opportunity to conduct an investigation from the information contained in the letters and determine what to do, if anything, regarding the content of those letters. In his February 28th, 2025 response, which is the latest one we read only days ago, McLeland makes much noise about Attorney Baldwin attempting to put into the public domain information through the filing before verifying that information. Yeah, it's part of the BS that McLeland engages upon, which is basically slander, right? Discrediting and slander. And remember, even your own biased judge did this. Remember at the time that she found that they were not in contempt of court, she used the first half of that finding to totally disparage the defense and demean them and slander them and call them negligent and grossly negligent, etc. And McLeland has done the same consistently. It should be noted that Attorney Baldwin first attempted to work the matter out with McLeland via email before filing the motion. Yes, McLeland, so you're all butthurt because a motion was filed? Well, if you wouldn't be a dick and if you would respond to the emails and you'd be a human being and actually respond and communicate and do what you're supposed to do and don't act like this is a personal endeavor, if you were professional, let's put it that way. Look, we know you're related to the German family, okay? So if you didn't act like you're a relative of the Germans, but instead if you acted like you were actual unbiased, impartial professional, maybe things would have gone differently. In fact, on February 12th, 2025, Baldwin emailed McLeland asking for the Reese Davis letters. On February 13th, McLeland responded as follows. The information that we have concerning Reese Davis was forwarded to you as part of discovery. You had every opportunity to call Mr. Davis at trial or at the hearing on third-party motive. You chose not to. Your strategy was not to call those people. The trial is now over. Richard Allen was convicted. If you feel the need to file additional motions, then file them. The state will respond appropriately. The state will follow any orders of the court puts out in regards to these motions. Whoa, bitch. Whoa. The fuck is wrong with you, man? You see what I mean? Can you believe that? How professional is that? The information that we have concerning Reese Davis was forwarded to you as part of discovery. You had every opportunity to call Mr. Davis at trial or at the hearing on third-party motive. You chose not to. Your strategy was not to call those people. The trial is now over. Richard Allen was convicted. If you feel the need to file additional motions, then file them. Okay, you see what we're dealing with here? This is the professionalism of the prosecutors for the state of Indiana here. Before filing any motions, Attorney Baldwin made one more attempt, despite this fucking negative speech here. The defense responded at 3:54 p.m. on February 13, 2025, by asking Mr. McClelland whether he was admitting or denying that he had received letters from Reese Davis in the months leading up to the 2024 trial. McClelland could have quickly answered the question and then provided the letters to the defense and perhaps avoided any more filings. McClelland also could have asked Baldwin to hold off on filing anything while he gathered the letters to turn them over to the defense. Instead, Lil Putty McClelland chose to ignore the defense's request, prompting the defense to file its February 14th motion to preserve and produce the Reese Davis letter. It should be noted that the defense was seemingly up against a deadline of sorts. If the defense waited to file their motion, the judge might rule on the motion to correct errors beforehand, which arguably would prevent the defense the ability to file the motion to preserve and produce, as such a ruling would arguably kick the case to the appellate lawyers. Also note that in his February 13th email response, McClelland claimed to have provided the defense all the Reese Davis discovery. Yeah. This is where the meat comes, right? This was simply an untrue and misleading statement typed on his computer and sent to the defense by McClelland. Through his February 28th, 2025 filing, this court learned that McClelland actually was in possession of those letters on February 13th, 2025, at the time he wrote that email, which contradicted McClelland's representation to the defense that everything had been turned over in discovery. Oh, yeah. You see what I mean about shooting yourself in the foot, admitting you're lying? McClelland chose to intentionally mislead defense counsel about his possession of those letters. McClelland was getting called out by the defense once again. Remember the other times that McClelland was forced to turn over items after being called out by the defense because he's continuously withheld evidence from the defense. And once again, he was ultimately forced to turn over these letters, perhaps out of fear that the defense would eventually gather DOC records that would then expose McClelland's misrepresentation. Allen and the defense are not conceding that the DOC records that McClelland admitted as exhibits are proof positive that other letters don't exist. Remember, the only reason McClelland is admitting that 3 letters exist is because the DOC receipts show 3 letters. Okay, it's very possible that McClelland is in possession of other letters, up to 7 or 8, who knows, which he is withholding, and that he chose to only hand over the 2 because he knew by requesting the outgoing receipts from DOC, he knew that those receipts would only show 3, and he thought, well, damn, I'm only going to give them these 2 because they're only going to know about those 3 that are in those receipts. That's all that can be proven. You see where I'm going with that? The defense has no idea how records are kept or how accurate those records might be. The defense is also not sure how McClelland was so quickly able to access those records from Newcastle. Oh, right. It seems like he got them immediately, right? Certainly, as detailed above, McClelland's response to the motion to correct errors, in which McClelland provides details found nowhere in the Reese Davis letters, provides a compelling argument for the belief that either other letters exist or video exists that has not been turned over. McClelland's misrepresentation has yet to be explained by McClelland or this court or anyone else. Whoops. Okay. Are the letters McClellan finally provided to the defense truly the only letters and or videos in his possession? Or, well, let me continue. McClellan's recent response to the defense motion to correct error provides troubling statements. And just give me a moment. I have to cough. Boy, y'all get ready for this. In the prosecution's response to the defense's motion to correct errors, in an apparent attempt to discredit Reese Davis, McClelland claims that he had information that Reese Davis had claimed that Ron Logan took batteries out of Libby's phone or took a battery out. This is curious because the prosecution has failed to produce any document or videotape in which Reese Davis makes such a claim. The defense has found nothing. This leads to serious questions of where did McClelland learn of this information? The defense is left with one of two possibilities. McClelland has additional Reese Davis letters, reports, or video from where he gained that information about Ron Logan removing a battery. Or two, for reasons that are unknown, McClelland made up the story. Now, let me say this. I don't know how retarded any of you are out there, but have any of you tried to take a battery out of an iPhone? I mean, because I'm smart enough to know that Ron Logan just ain't taking no battery out of an iPhone on the spot like that. No, it ain't happening. Now, let's just speculate here. You got a little flip phone or something like that. You got a little burner phone. You got a little Motorola. You got a little LG Flip. The battery comes out in half a second. Open, flip, battery gone. So, McClelland make the shit up completely? Or did Ron Logan remove a battery from a phone one of the girls had, but it wasn't an iPhone? And where is that phone? Excuse me, sir. If Ron Logan removed a battery from a phone that's not an iPhone, where is that phone? It seems unlikely that such a specific story would be made up, leaving the defense to conclude that McClelland has additional Reese Davis letters, reports or video, but has not turned over to the defense. McClelland has not explained to this court, nor to anyone else, from where McClelland claims he learned that information about the batteries. Nor did McClelland back up his story about the batteries with an exhibit attached to the filing. Also note in that email that McClelland requested Attorney Baldwin to file something, which Baldwin did, only to have McClelland then cast dispersions about, yes. So McClelland's butt hurt that a filing was produced. But you wrote a bitchy letter like this. You asked for it, you got it, buddy. Now, let's do a little something here. Let's take a little detour real quick. State's response to the motion to correct error. That's what he was referring to, right? Let's see if we can take a little quick look at this. Whoops. All right, remember, this is McClellan authoring this. This is McClellan, okay? Let's take a look at this. Let's little. First, he starts off all bitchy, right? That the defense team, consisting of 3 experienced defense trial attorneys, made a choice not to fully explore, present the Reese Davis claim, which the defense admits was contained in discovery. Well, hold up, pussy. You withheld those Reese Davis letters and the videotaped interview. Keegan Kline had already told you about. Look, you understand what it's called victim blaming, McClellan. Learn what it is. Okay, number E. That the alleged confession was made to an inmate at the DOC named Reese Davis, who is serving 50 years for dealing in meth. Okay, first of all, that's an extremely long sentence for dealing meth. Let's be honest here, okay? The fact that he's serving 50 years for dealing meth means nothing about his credibility. First of all, it means he's not on meth, right? Because he's in DOC custody, and your facility is not rife with drugs for these inmates to abuse, right? So they should all be sober, right? So bringing up meth and the fact that he's a convict, of course he's a convict, because who else is in the fucking prison? All right. That law enforcement interviewed Reese Davis and submitted him to a polygraph at his request. That Mr. Davis failed to polygraph miserably. Oh, yeah. And by the way, I noticed that you left out the fact that he begged them to take note that he has Tourette syndrome and is medicated, and that his polygraph might be it'd have to be looked at through that lens. But I noticed that you're ignoring that fact as well. Okay. That Mr. Davis gave a statement that alleged Ron Logan confessed to him that he killed the older girl first. Okay, let's put a check on that. Remember, we're trying to keep note of what's important that we might be able to extract from this to put on our checklist of things that might actually be pertinent to the crime. Okay. Logan confessed to him that he killed the older girl first, then took the younger one away from the scene, that he killed the second victim later, and then brought her back to the scene. Well, what's the logic in that? Logic is yes, you could move Abby's body. Remember how I said Abby's body is mysteriously missing some blood. So if she was killed at some other location, most of the blood loss could have been left at another location. And Abby is only less than 100 pounds or so. It's pretty easy to carry Abby. If she's brought there as a dead body, it's easy to carry Abby's dead body from point A down to the crime scene there and place her there. Nearly impossible to carry Libby's dead body from that any other place and bring her there. So you see in the logic in these statements that, yeah, Libby had to pretty much be killed in that spot. Abby, yes, could have been killed somewhere else and then brought over, carried down, and placed there. So that's checking. That he killed the second victim later and then brought her back to the scene. That he went back to the scene after search parties searched his property and moved the girls to another location. Well, that one doesn't make as much sense because what evidence do they have, or do we have, that they were moved to another location other than the speculation that they were initially in the water, one half in, one half out, or something like that, and then pulled from the water and brought over to 50 feet away from the water. Maybe that's what's being referenced here. I don't know. That he removed the cell phone battery from the girl's phone and left the phone behind. And that he took the girl's clothing from the scene and burned. Okay, well, hold on. This is McClellan, starting again at E, saying that law enforcement interviewed Reese Davis, submitted him to a polygraph. He failed the polygraph. Mr. Davis gave the statement that alleged Ron Logan confessed to him, and he killed the older girl first, took the younger one away from the scene. He killed the second victim, brought her back to the scene, went back to the scene, moved the girls in another location, removed the cell phone battery, and took the girl's clothing and burned. Hold on. That means it appears to me that what you're saying is that you're looking at a statement Davis gave in conjunction with this polygraph. See how he ties it? It's as if he's saying that at the polygraph that he failed, he gave the statement that alleged Ron Logan confessed that he killed the older girl first, took the younger from the scene, killed the second victim later, brought her back to the scene, went back to the scene after search, moved the girls to another location, removed the cell phone battery from the girl's phone, left the phone behind, took the girl's clothing from the scene and burned. I think we're getting to something here. I think you attorneys should actually fucking pay attention to this paragraph E and what it's saying. It seems to be McClellan admitting that there's a statement in conjunction with this polygraph that he's in the possession of such that he can extract these details from it. So where is the confession or the statement? Where's the statement from Reese Davis that contains all these details that's not in any of these letters? It seems unlikely that such a specific story would be made up, leaving the defense to conclude that McClellan has additional Reese Davis letters, reports. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Bingo. Which means he's still withholding potentially exculpatory evidence. He's still withholding. See, we knew it. McClellan's history of holding on to exculpatory evidence until being forced to or called out by the defense. Unfortunately, as has been the historical pattern of the prosecution, McClellan made the decision to hold on to those letters until called out by the defense, much like he made the decision to hold on to other exculpatory evidence over the course of this case. Again, the Indiana Court of Appeal have commented on patterns of withholding exculpatory evidence and have even reversed convictions when prosecutors have exhibited such patterns. Yep. I'm telling you, this shit is getting richer and richer every day. Every day that passes, this thing gets more and more intense. Steve Mullins' claim that the Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal and other crucial early interviews between February 14th, 2017 and February 20th, 2017, remember the first 6 days, were recorded over, meaning disappeared, was not relayed to the defense until January 30th of 2024. In spite of the defense asking for that evidence since August 10th, 2023. As anyone in the criminal justice system knows, often the most important interviews are those interviews closest to the time in crime. Oh, yeah, like, the first 48, one of my favorite programs ever. Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal were on law enforcement's radar screen as suspects very early on in the case. In fact, this is evident from reviewing emails all the way up the chain to Doug Carter in the early days of the investigation. Those emails were admitted as evidence during the July 30th to August 1st, 2024 hearings. Let me stop there. Hey, everyone requesting evidence from this court, from the trial exhibits, can we request these emails from the July 30th to August 1st hearings? The emails regarding Brad Holder, Patrick Westphal to Doug Carter? Because of law enforcement's very early interest in Brad Holder and Patrick Westphal, each were quickly found and then quickly interviewed on February 17th, 2017, within 3 days of the murders. Think about it. They were brought in and interviewed within 3 days of the murders. On August 10th, 2023, the defense first unveiled to the prosecution that the defense, believed that the state's own evidence supported that Holder and Westphal were involved in the murders. From a single 2-page document found among hundreds of thousands of documents, the defense found evidence that law enforcement had interviewed Holder and Westphal on February 17th, 2017, and that both interviews were memorialized through audio videotape. It was after the August 10th, 2023 deposition of Jerry Holman that the defense began demanding those interviews, which the prosecution should have already provided to the defense. When McClellan and Mullen failed to turn over those interviews or explain what had happened to those interviews, the defense called out the prosecution in the Franks memo, filed September 18, 2023. Footnote 66 on page 56 of the memorandum details that the prosecution had failed to turn over the Holder and Westphal interviews that the defense had been seeking, even after the Franks memo was filed and the defense alerted the court, calling out the prosecution for not turning over the Holder Westphal interviews. The prosecution still refused to answer the very simple questions posed by the defense of where is Holder and Westphal videos? Please turn them over. The defense heard crickets. So let's go over to that. That's page 56. So we're going to go to page 56. It says, just like Holder's videotaped interview, as of the date of the filing of this memorandum, the prosecutor still has not turned over the Westfall videotaped interview. The defense only has a narrative that allegedly memorializes Westfall's interview. The defense has requested both Holder's and Westfall's videotaped interviews. Instead of immediately alerting the defense on August 10th, 2023, that those videos had been taped over, McClellan and Mullen said nothing. Finally, on January 30th, 2024, prosecution provided a document that detailed some of the contents on certain hard drives that it had turned over to defense. In the fine print on page 5 of this document, the defense finally learned what McClellan and Mullen were claiming happened to these crucial interviews. They were recorded over, along with all other crucial interviews between February 14, 2017 and February 20th, 2017. Neither McClellan nor Mullen called the defense and said, we should have told you this when you first got on the case, or at least back in August of 2023. But those interviews you've been seeking for the last 5 months were taped over in 2017. No, because we couldn't have any sort of normal communications from these people. No professional behavior, no ethics, no helpfulness, no true fight for justice. No. Defense counsel has practiced for over 30 years. During that time, if the prosecution in any other county ever received exculpatory evidence or learned that certain evidence had been destroyed, it would immediately contact the defense and tell them on the phone or in person that the evidence had been destroyed. In this case, the defense was lucky to even notice Mullen and McClellan's claim that the crucial video was taped over, as such information was sandwiched between other minutiae contained in a document among hundreds of thousands of pages. This should also not be overlooked. If, in fact, those crucial videotaped interviews were actually taped over, that would be colossal news. Colossal. Mullen and McClellan would not have forgotten. Losing such evidence would be the talk of unified command due to the serious nature and potential serious consequences of losing such important evidence. To lose such crucial evidence early on in the case would not be the type of thing that would ever leave the memory of the man in charge of that evidence, Steve Mullen, nor in the minds of those in unified command. Therefore, when the defense requested the prosecution to turn over those interviews, Mullen and McClellan should have immediately said to themselves, oh no, those interviews were erased back in 2017. I need to immediately tell the defense. I should have told them that when they got on the case, but I'll do it now. No. Nope. It is inexplicable that Mullen and McClellan would not have remembered in August of 2023, when the defense first requested those interviews, that those interviews had been purportedly recorded over. Especially when there were 70 days in totality. Yet, Neither McClellan nor Mullen told the defense of this earth-shattering type of news. Colossal news. Mullen had known this for 6 years at that time. To make matters worse for Mullen and McClellan, when the defense finally learned of the so-called recorded over interviews, the defense asked if there were some documentation memorializing what happened, exactly what happened to those interviews, how it happened, that the crucial evidence had been recorded over. Surely a report existed that would explain this terrible accident that caused crucial evidence to be forever lost. Surely there was an accounting for this, some accountability. Nope. However, no such report had yet been tendered to the defense. Some point later in time, the defense finally received such a report. It was drafted by Steve Mullen. Inexplicably, it was undated. Therefore, no one knows if this report was drafted in 2017 or sometime in 2024 or anywhere in between. Well, I can guarantee you, I'd tell you right now when the shit was drafted. It was drafted when you started making noise about it. That's why they didn't date it, because dating it would be perjury. They want you to assume that it was drafted the day after it was discovered that it was recorded over. That document was entered in as an exhibit at the March 18th, 2024 motion to dismiss. This undated document is not normal, nor the normal way that law enforcement and prosecution operate. The question must be asked, therefore, why did Mullen and McClellan not immediately alert the defense that the Holder and Westfall and many other interviews were recorded over when the defense first asked McClellan and Mullen for those interviews in August of 2023? And why did Mullen and McClellan not turn over the undated document purportedly explaining how the interviews were recorded over until after the defense requested such a document? The defense has not seen anything other than an undated document and the words of McClellan and Mullen that support that the interviews were actually recorded over. This is not normal and is very troubling. Neither McClellan nor Mullen nor anyone else in Unified Command has ever explained to this court, nor anyone else, why they did not immediately alert the defense that crucial evidence sought by the defense had been purportedly recorded over. Neither McClellan nor Mullen or anyone else has ever explained to this court or anyone else why it took 5 months before providing a document detailing the claims of Mullen about what happened to those interviews. An undated document at that. There are 5 valuable months during which Richard Allen's counsel could have been investigating the actual claims that those interviews were recorded over. This is not normal. For over 4 months, McClellan held on to exculpatory evidence he had in his possession from Todd Click's lawyer, including a certified letter detailing how a law enforcement officer was concerned, essentially, that McClellan may have had the wrong man charged based upon evidence that he and 2 other law enforcement officers had gathered over a lengthy investigation, one of whom is now dead. that led them to believe that Holder and Fields and perhaps others were involved in the murders. As this court knows from the Franks memo, including documentation provided to the court in that memo, on May 1st, 2023, McClellan received through the U.S. Postal Service a certified mailing from attorney Paul Barada detailing why his client, Todd Click, was concerned that McClellan did not have all the information necessary before making an arrest. This certified mailing not only contained a letter, but also contained the actual evidence that Click and law enforcement officers Kevin Murphy and Greg Ferenczi had gathered during the investigation. This included several videos that the prosecution never turned over to the defense. Interviews from the likes of Elvis Fields, Rod Abrams, Ned Smith, and Johnny Messer. Again, in a normal world, this would be an earth-shattering mailing to receive if you are a prosecutor. Normally, this mailing would cause a normal prosecutor to immediately contact the defense lawyers by phone to alert them that the prosecutor had received this information that clearly was exculpatory. However, that didn't happen. That did not happen. Instead, the prosecutor held on to the contents of that certified mailing for over 4 months. He tried to hide it. The prosecutor only turned those documents over to the defense after it became crystal clear that they would be learning of that mailing. In the August 10th, 2023 deposition of Jerry Holman, the defense provided Holman and the prosecution with the 12-page Odin report, where the prosecution had to know that Todd Click was a member of that investigation trio. Along with Kevin Murphy and Greg Ferenczi, McClellan had to have understood that it was only a matter of time before the defense would learn from Todd Click himself, through his lawyer, that he had mailed a letter to the prosecutor, much like Reese Davis, containing exculpatory evidence. McClellan's failure to immediately turn over this exculpatory evidence has never been explained to this court or anyone else. Why did it take McClellan over 4 months to turn over this evidence? Similarly, it took McClellan approximately 4 months to turn over the Reese Davis letters. Delayed discovery of exculpatory evidence without explanation is not normal. But this has been a consistent pattern with this prosecutor. Is it smelling right for you? Yet? Why, in a September 6, 2023 email to the defense, did McClellan claim, oh, this is rich, that the Purdue professor's identity was unknown and perhaps would never be known, when in fact, law enforcement had known the identity of this Purdue professor since mid-August? Well, let's be real here. They knew it from the very beginning, from the first day he came into this case. And why did the defense only learn of the Purdue professor's identity after the Franks memo was filed, calling out the prosecution for absurdly claiming that it may not ever be able to learn his identity? Oh yeah, they tried to hide him. You're about to find out why they tried to hide his identity. In yet another example of what appears to be an attempt to conceal exculpatory evidence, McClellan has yet to explain to this court or anyone else why he sent an email to the defense on September 6, 2023, claiming that he and law enforcement did not yet know the identity of the Purdue professor, and more curiously, that they may never learn of the Purdue professor's identity. The Franks memo was filed on September 18, 2023. Coincidentally, the very next day, lo and behold, Jerry Holman actually found and interviewed the missing Purdue professor, Jeffrey Turco. Only 13 days earlier, it was thought that his identity may never be known, according to McClellan. But after that Franks memo, where the missing professor was discussed, he was found immediately and interviewed immediately. Let there be no doubt, the Purdue professor's report and even his October 19th, 2023 interview revealed the murderers may have left behind sticks in the form of runes, consistent with the defense's theory. This is called exculpatory evidence. Apologize, I needed some water. So let's continue. Let's look at this. If those of you who have not heard this verbatim before, it's going to blow your minds. It's going to blow your minds. You need to hear this. Wake up call for anyone distracted. You actually need to hear this 2 minutes, and then you can go back to distraction. Okay. And hey, everybody, I'm so glad to have you here in this channel watching this. I apologize that I can't have fun with the chat at the moment that I'm going through this, but I'm so glad you are here. I hope you are having a good time in the chat, enjoying the show and learning. And please just give me your attention for a moment, because this is just earth shattering here for those who have not heard it before. And if this is not enough to overturn this conviction and prove that McClellan and Jerry Holman were absolutely trying to hide evidence, trying to hide the identity of this guy, and basically trying to gaslight the world that these sticks on these bodies do not have meaning, this will do it. So please listen up just for this thing here. So it says, while Turco admitted in his report from 2017, remember 2017, that he could not confirm what the sticks represented, he also said, I'm going to quote, the argument that these markings constitute an inscription inspired by Norse runes or modern recreations thereof is quite plausible. Close quotation. These words from Turco were not buried deep in the report, but rather in the very first paragraph. It would not be surprising if Holman or McClellan would want the defense to not have access to the report, as that report supported the defense theory that Norse paganists left the sticks behind in the form of runes. In his September 19th, 2023 interview with Holman, Turco commented, I'm going to quote again, I think the idea that somebody is trying to kind of replicate, early Germanic runic script, that seems, I think, a given. Both the report and Turco's own words in his interview stray far from what Holman represented in his August 10th, 2023 deposition under oath as to what the Purdue professor's words were. Holman claimed under oath that the Purdue professor had stated that the sticks were, quote, not Odinism or any type of cult worshiping or any type of group that would have conducted the crime. Close quotation. Holman, simply put, misrepresented under oath the findings of the Purdue professor, who never said that the sticks were not representative of Odinism or any type of cult worshiping or any type of group that would have conducted the crime. Rather, the words of the Purdue professor, or the words that he used, was that the possibility was quite plausible and that it was a given. Holman's misrepresentation under oath is very troubling. I mean, for a detective with the state police, come on. Come on. You have a state police officer misrepresenting under oath the findings of the Purdue professor and actually flipping them upside down, where the Purdue professor says the argument that these markings constitute an inscription inspired by Norse runes or modern recreations thereof is quite plausible. I think the idea that somebody is trying to kind of replicate, early Germanic, runic script, that seems, I think, a given. Holman has never explained himself to this court or to anyone else why that misrepresentation under oath. The defense believes that evidence supports that McClellan did not want the defense to learn of the name of the Purdue professor. It's called hiding his identity because of these words. And thus, the September 6, 2023 email that McClellan has yet to explain. Turco's report and interview supported the defense theory that Odinist, Norse paganist were the murderers that left behind runes at the crime scene. Yes. That's what it is. After Holman's September 19, 2023 interview of Turco, Holman prepared a report dated, because reports are normally dated, September 22nd, 2023, in which he admitted that he had known of the likely identity of the Purdue professor since mid-August 2023. If this case again, why did McClellan, if this is the case, again, why did McClellan not disclose this information to the defense instead of claiming to the defense a month later, in September of 2023, that the identity was unknown and may never be known? Because he's lying. Again, McClellan has never answered that question to this court or to anyone else. To the defense, it appears as yet another example of McClellan's attempts to conceal exculpatory evidence from the defense, much like the Reese Davis letters. And this is not normal. Why did McClellan fail to turn over the faked crime scene photo found on Holder's Facebook page, even to this day? And why did Trooper Roland Purdy twice swear under oath that the faked crime scene image was found on Brad Holder's Facebook page before the murders, only to then change his story on August 1st, 2024, at the hearing on third-party suspect evidence? Ooh, what about that timing? Isn't that rich? Isn't that rich? What do you think about that? Do you think that he is participating in a cover-up? Yeah. Trooper Roland Purdy, twice under oath, said that the faked crime scene image or replication was found on Holder's Facebook. And then August 1st, third-party suspect evidence hearing, changes his story. As has been noted in the Franks memo and at various other times, the defense found among the massive amount of evidence a report from Trooper Ryan Winters detailing evidence that suspect Brad Holder had an image on his social media page that depicted two girls mimicking the very crime scene that law enforcement found on February 14, 2017. This image depicted two young girls lying on the forest floor with sticks and branches on them, with one of the young girl's arms posed almost identically to that of Liberty German. Yeah. This bizarre image had existed on Brad Holder's Facebook page before the murders, according to Trooper Roland Purdy. Why would Brad Holder, an early suspect, have such an eerily similar image on his Facebook page? Unfortunately, the prosecution failed to produce that exculpatory piece of evidence. The defense had to drive to Georgia to obtain that image from the very man who had located the image on Brad Holder's social media pages. Trooper Purdy, then under oath at his deposition in the fall of 2023, confirmed that the image was in fact on Brad Holder's Facebook page and that he did not find the image compelling because it had been on Holder's Facebook page for a few years. On July 30th of 2024, Purdy once again confirmed under oath that this eerily similar faked crime scene image was found on Brad Holder's Facebook page. Then, very curiously, just 2 days later, Trooper Purdy recanted his two previous sworn statements, now claiming that he could not confirm that the image was on Brad Holder's Facebook page. Additionally, Trooper Winters claimed in his deposition that the Indiana State Police could not locate the faked crime scene image that at one time was in the possession of the ISP post in Lafayette. Oh, is that more destroyed evidence? More deleted evidence? To this day, the prosecution has failed to turn over said evidence. This is not normal. It is also not normal for a seasoned state trooper like Roland Purdy to retract two prior sworn statements during a hearing in which the mimicked crime scene image was a central piece of the defense's argument to allow third-party suspects at trial. You see what's going on here? Do you see the game that's being played? I do. Video of Holder and Westfall in Pagan ritual in Fort Wayne. The defense was fortunate enough to locate among hundreds of thousands of documents a 2-page email from Greg Ferenczi to Tony Liggett dated December 12th, 2018, in which Ferenczi describes a strange video that Brad Holder took of a pagan ritual in Fort Wayne, Indiana. The video is discussed in the Frank's memo, page 67. In the video, Brad Holder was tape recording various people in a ceremony, periodically yelling out things like, "Hail Thor." At the very end of the video, Brad Holder tape recorded Patrick Westfall standing next to a tree and using his hand to seemingly mark something on the tree. In the email, Ferenczi commented to Liggett about Patrick Westfall marking the tree with his hand. This is significant because of the F, or upside down L, found or marked on the tree in one of the victims' blood. Law enforcement had believed that the tree was marked possibly by someone practicing Norse paganism or Odinism. The defense did not get a copy of this exculpatory video. Rather, it had to ask the prosecution for that video. Eventually, that video was turned over to the defense. It is not normal for the defense to continually have to request the prosecution to turn over evidence of an exculpatory nature that the prosecution has in its possession. Normally, the prosecution turns over that evidence immediately without any need to request it. This was yet another example of the state of Indiana holding on to exculpatory evidence before being forced to turn it over. And it begs a question. How many items of exculpatory evidence have been withheld or permanently deleted by this state of Indiana? Let's just put it this way. If this was your father or your brother, would you be okay with the prosecution withholding almost all of the evidence, delaying for almost a year the evidence that it did hand over, handing over seemingly a bunch of bullshit, and destroying and delaying the actual pertinent discovery? Would you be okay with that if it was your father or your brother? Yeah, I didn't think so. But we're supposed to believe that this prosecutor's a good guy. Good guy. Remember, that's the troll farm code for one of the worst pieces of shit involved in this case. It was used for all of the worst of the trolls. He's a good guy. What happened throughout this case is not normal. Prosecutors not turning over exculpatory evidence to the defense is not normal. Prosecutors holding on to exculpatory evidence until being forced to provide it to the defense by complaints from the defense is not normal. Prosecutors claiming that they can't locate a key exculpatory witness's identity, a witness, mind you, that purportedly altered the way that the case was investigated, is not normal. Later, learning that the prosecutor had knowledge of the witness's identity in spite of an email sent to the defense claiming that he may never learn of the witness's identity is not normal. The prosecution having no explanation for not providing this exculpatory evidence to the defense is not normal. Having no explanation as to why a report that attempted to explain why key evidence is forever lost and is undated is not normal. Having a seasoned law enforcement officer recant two prior sworn statements concerning a key piece of exculpatory evidence that the ISP claims it cannot locate and that was to be used in the motion to include third-party suspects is not normal. Finally, having a prosecutor claim in an email that he provided all the Reese Davis letters to the defense before trial, when just 14 days later he was forced to admit what he represented as the truth in his email was in fact not true, that is not normal. Nor is it normal that one of the letters can't even be located and that the prosecution has no explanation for this missing Reese Davis letter. It's also not normal that the report accompanying the polygraph, in which he mentions the taking the battery out of the victim's phone, is referenced in a filing and then not handed over. That's not normal. It does not matter whether the contents of those letters can be questioned as unreliable. This is not for the prosecutor to determine. The prosecutor's only determination is to turn that evidence over to the defense. The defense should have had the opportunity to determine the value of that information contained in the letters and to investigate if it saw fit. It does not matter whether those letters may conflict with other defense theories, as the defense has a constitutional right to possess all potentially exculpatory evidence and then to determine how it should proceed strategically in the defense of their client. A local Carroll County rule also requires turning over said evidence. The fact that this prosecution had in its possession letters in which a key suspect, Keegan Klein, purportedly confessed to the crime and provided details that only the killer might know, and that information should have been provided to the defense, Because of the prosecution's failure to produce those letters, and because of the prosecution has a history of a history of a pattern of not turning over exculpatory evidence, Richard Allen deserves another trial. Richard Allen, therefore, through counsel, seeks a hearing in which the prosecutor is requested to explain why he failed to turn over the Reese Davis letters and reports and videos, etc., why he misrepresented his possession of those letters to the defense counsel in his February 13, 2025 email, as well as to explain all the other examples of failing to turn over exculpatory evidence as recited herein, which shows a pattern of such conduct. The defense seeks a hearing in order to, one, use the state of Indiana's answers to these questions in a renewed motion for a new trial based upon newly discovered evidence. And also, two, in order to use the state of Indiana's answers to those questions as a record that can be utilized by appellate lawyers, should this court deny Allen his request for a new trial. Lastly, Allen asked the court to order sanctions against the state of Indiana for violating the Carroll County local rule concerning exculpatory evidence. The sanction the defense is seeking is ordering a new trial. Signed, Andy Baldwin. Now, let's just be honest here. Whoops, wrong button. Do you think that this judge is going to grant a new trial on her own? No. It ain't going to happen. But every word that you just read goes to appeal. So, meaning the appellate court will review these situations, this hiding the identity of Jeffrey Turco, this changing your stories, this misrepresenting the words and opinions of Jeffrey Turco by Holman, this withholding of evidence by McClellan, this blatant destruction of evidence, this failure to provide the defense with all the claims of Reese Davis and Kegan Kline, when if you go back in time, you will notice that Ron Logan, Kegan Kline are two of the individuals that were in its third-party theory, and that the state requested the court limit. And of course, this court just rubber stamps every single thing this prosecutor asked for. So, constantly overwhelmed how bewildering this all is. And the fact that they think that they can do this so openly and get away with it, and that no one will see it, as long as they keep doing their PR tour, as long as they hit up the murder sheet, as long as they hit up the Carroll County Comment, as long as they hit up the couple YouTubers who kiss their ass and don't ask any hard questions, as long as they parade the family out to, yeah, I love being Libby's grandmama. Yeah, and they're so mean to us. And yeah, no, I don't think there wasn't really any one piece of evidence, but we can just we glad the judge stuck it out, and yeah, I guess he's guilty. And they'll have people continue to produce content pushing their fairy tale story of what happened. Here comes Solo Bridge Guy. He's definitely the killer. He approaches Libby as a hero, so she takes a video intentionally of this killer. And he catches up to them, and they all fall down the hill. And then they slide down another one, and then they go across this frigid creek that's rushing, and it's up to here for the little girls. Then somehow they get across out of that damn creek, as muddy and steep of a bank that is. And then Richard Allen's spooked by a van, but he still decides to have them undress for some reason. He then decides to have the other one get dressed again for some reason. Kills them both for some reason. Ends up covered in blood. Leaves the phone there for some reason, but it's pristine. Hangs around for an hour putting sticks on them, although he's scared and spooked, and although Brad Weber can clearly see him from his yard. After an hour of bullshitting around, playing with dead bodies and sticks, he then makes it out of there without leaving a footprint, without leaving a drop of spittle, a hair, a fiber, anything. But he's covered in blood from head to toe. He chooses, instead of walking through the woods, to walk on the road? Really? So you got woods. You could just make it through the... Look, I've been there. You just go ahead, walk through the woods. But instead of walking through the trees, no, he just goes out on the road, covered from head to toe in blood and mud. Although the witness who claims to have seen someone says that he was covered in mud about 30 times. But then in the third or fourth, fifth year, she changes the story conveniently and then says blood only. Oh, for suddenly, for a couple years, he's only covered in mud from head to toe. But then suddenly, years later, she changes her mind, decides he's covered in blood from head to toe. And in that condition, he gets in his car. And getting in his car, covered in blood from head to toe, doesn't leave one drop of blood. But, he's dressed as Bridge Guy. But then it turns out that the jacket that was retrieved at Richard Allen's house, which they say is the Bridge Guy jacket, that was also absolutely pristine, not one drop of blood, not one victim's DNA, nothing. Yeah, it turns out that thing was purchased just like, 3 years after the crime at a minimum. It's not even possible to be Bridge Guy's jacket. Let's see. They find zero digital or cyber connections of him to these victims, although they do find Keegan Kline absolutely connected to these victims. You have to misrepresent witness statements. You have to omit facts like a description of a 1965 comet. You have to omit or conflate 5 different vehicle descriptions into one description. You have to ignore the fact that people saw other vehicles all around the place, like a blacked out SUV. You omit witnesses. All of this to go ahead and get that search warrant. You exercise a search warrant, you find nothing. Absolutely nothing. You don't find a knife that cut the girls. You don't find any phones that tie to the girls. You don't find the boots that match anything at the crime scene. Nothing. Zero, 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 zero. It's a total bust. You call the guy in to talk to him, and you have a heated argument, and because your ego's hurt and you're a bully and you have a very small penis for such a large guy, you decide you're going to arrest him on the spot and charge him with a double homicide. 2 little girls in Indiana. And then you allow the guy who is factually connected to catfishing the girls out there to their murders, who you say has a Dropbox which ties to the largest CSAM investigation in Indiana history. You allow him to be out there and predate on children for how many years? You magically lose 70 days of videos and untold items of evidence that can't be accounted for. You have a volunteer with an FBI clearance, et cetera, lifelong Masonic family, magically find a cleared tip on an individual who happens to own a 40 caliber weapon that can match to some bullet you have, that you go onto a television show and you put the bullet right on the screen. You have people out here on the internet who knew about this guy's name before he was arrested. You have a whole stable of people whose sole purpose is to attack, threaten to kill, discredit, dox, and run people off of the internet who are just trying to have public commentary on this double homicide. They even go so far as to threaten you on behalf of the family. They also threaten to sue you on behalf of the family. All of these people have magically wiped their identities online before ever coming into Delphi murders case. So you can't dox them because you try to figure out who they are, who are doxing you, threatening to kill you, and you report them to the police and all this shit. And it turns out, oh, they wiped their identities online. You can't do a background check on them. You got some of them claiming they got paid. You got the main podcasters pushing this shit who just happen to be the ones who leak every single thing that's ever leaked in this case. Oh, but you go to trial and they're hugged up with Doug Carter, hugging Doug Carter, just like the reporter who works for the Carroll County Comet. And getting that shut down was another win. Getting the defense kicked off was another win. And having, what's her name? You had a changing of the guard at the Comet, okay? So you lost the actual good reporter and you gained a fucking propagandist. Getting the defense kicked off was another win, though. Really? Yeah, Debbie Lowe. Debbie Lowe. You had Debbie Lowe, getting Debbie Lowe out of fuck Debbie Lowe, getting Debbie Lowe out of here. That was a win. Getting defense kicked off was a win. You had how many people dead now? and you have a prosecutor talking to the defense attorneys the way that he talked to that defense attorney in what I read earlier. Basically a middle finger, F you. Can't find the Abby on the Bridge photo. I mean, you've never seen anything like this in your life. There's never been anything like this in our lives. You have to wonder, what is this? What is this? Because, you know what makes sense? If this was some sort of high-powered cult sacrifice, human sacrifice for a high-powered, the most high-powered group of people, it kind of makes sense that you would see all this. You know, if you really back out and think about it, it's like, yeah, maybe it makes sense that. Where else would you see this kind of shit? Oh, but that's crazy. That's crazy. Because it never happens, although it happens. Or are you going to say it never happens? Because don't make me prove it to you. I mean, you all have the internet. Just Google it. You can Google things like this: ritualistic murders, or modern day human sacrifice, or human sacrifice based murders. Just start Googling around and look, don't believe the conspiracy theorists. Go for your major news reports, because I've already done it. You're going to find a lot of them. It's particularly prevalent with the Santa Muerte, but they're all over too. It's not just that. So you can't say it never happens. It happens. My conspiracy theory sort of leans towards, well, you killed one, and then you made the decision to do that to the other one. Okay, since one was killed, normal killing, and then a decision is made, hey, we better take advantage of a bad situation and let's sacrifice this other one for our cult. Kind of feeling like that's probably what we're looking at, square in the face. And it would explain a lot of this, and it's difficult. But hey, it never happens. But I mean, for real though, if some of your witnesses were part of this group, and some of your family was part of this group, and some of the state was part of the group, you kind of could make sense of it. Anyway, let's see. I had something else, but I'm kind of tired now, but let's see if I can manage. I'm not even going to read through this thoroughly. I'll gloss over it. And I just want to, I guess, be able to comment upon some of these points that are most alarming or glaring. Number 4, most of what Reese Davis told attorney Andrew Baldwin is false. Okay, but that's not how this works. Excuse me, sir. Sir, that's not how this works, sir. You don't get to say it's false and therefore I'm going to do the wrong thing. Not all information gathered in an investigation is discovery. No, but it's discoverable. Except for the fucking 70 days that you intentionally deleted to cover up the actual murderers. Remember, people are being protected here. Attorney Andrew Baldwin had an opportunity to fact check the information Reese Davis provided, but instead chose to put the information in a public motion without verifying its truthfulness. Oh, that's called crying like a little bitch. Okay. Maybe if you would actually have communicated with him like a normal human being, like a professional, he would not have had to file a motion, sir. Sir. Okay. Okay, number 6. The state contacted the DOC to get a list of outgoing mail from Reese Davis. Yeah, that's called to cover your own ass. You did that to cover your own ass because you wanted to know what you had to account for, sir. Okay. The state was able to recover 2 of 3 letters. What does recover mean? You had them, right? You had them like you have the others. And what about the report that mentions the battery being taken out? You have that too, don't you? But you haven't given that over, have you? Okay. The letters are not discoverable, not exculpatory, says number 9. Not exculpatory because it's inculpatory. No, that's not true. It's exculpatory, as you know, because it defeats your timeline, sir. Okay. There is 0 evidence found in the investigation that Ron Logan and Keegan Kline knew each other. Sir, you talk to a couple informants that I know you do who actually know that to be factual. So what kind of investigators are you that you cannot connect Logan to the Klines when we absolutely know they're connected? And people who are out here running their mouths in these streets have direct knowledge of the fact. Are you lying? Are you lying when you say there's 0 evidence that Ron Logan knew Keegan Kline? Keegan Kline denies the allegations sent out by Reese Davis, State's Exhibit 4. Yeah, of course he would. Of course he would, because it's implicating him in a murder of 2 little children. Do you think he would not deny it? You think Keegan Kline's just going to admit it to you at this point in time when he's trying to game the system? Keegan Kline states that Reese Davis is an idiot. I've only talked to him maybe 2 times. He's one of the guys that tries to write all different positions, get time cut on people's cases. He's the worst of the worst. Yeah, like talk about the pot calling the kettle black. You talk about the pot. Who's the fucking idiot? Pot calling kettle black. It's funny here how all through these here he's believing every word out of. He's basically worshiping like Keegan Kline is ultimately the most credible person in the DOC. According to Nicholas McClelland. Keegan Kline is absolutely credible at all times, in all ways, and his word is gold, and therefore we should believe him. But although it conflicts with the statements he made about Reese Davis saying that he's serving 50 years for selling meth, oh, okay, well, that makes him not credible, but, you know, Keegan Kline serving 45 for kiddie porn, including 3-year-olds. Oh, that makes him credible. Yeah, sure. Contradict much? Attorney Baldwin had every opportunity to depose Reese Davis. No, 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 no. You withheld this evidence for him, so he had no reason to do so because you were hiding evidence, sir. Okay. There is not a video interview of Reese Davis that exists within Discovery or within the state's possession. Sir, did you contact the state police and say, excuse me, when you went over and interviewed Reese Davis and he says that you videotaped it, do you have the recording? Did you even try to contact the state police and ask them that question? Or are you putting up these obstacles and playing fucking stupid like you did with the FBI and Kevin Horan, and you pretended you couldn't produce the person who produced the geofencing report because you just said, oh, what the FBI did. I don't know who did it. Oh, we don't have possession of an interview of Reese Davis. Oh, because it's with the state police, dumbass. Even if the evidence was to use at trial, it's not. Was evidence the defense wished to use at trial? It's not newly discovered. Yes, the fuck it is, because you withheld it. So they're just figuring it out. Information pertaining to Ron Logan, Kagan Klein state falls under the state's motion in limine. Yeah, that's why you did it, because you knew. Listen, if you included them intentionally. Did you ever notice? When you guys took a look at that, did you fucking actually pay attention to what he did when that limine was filed? Let's see if I have it up here for you, because I like showing it. I probably don't have it ready to go. I don't know. I got some other good shit. I don't know if I have that one ready to go, but we got this. Because what I was talking about is the list of people they're excluding, right? Ron Logan, Keegan Kline, you know the list. Let me see if I can pull it up, because I love showing that list, because that list right there is just alarming, and it's like, yeah, bro, if it was not important to you to hide those people, you would not have included them on your list, and that list was very strategic. Keegan Kline, Ron Logan, Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Elvis Fields. All right, I guess I'm giving up on trying to find it. Who knows where I have that? But those are the names that we were not allowed to say in court at all, because they actually might help with reasonable doubt, because they were probably involved in some way. Oops. Looks like I'm failing at it. Whoops, what the hell? Boy, my mouse is just wilding out over here. Okay, let's see. But I'll say this. It's just like the sketches, which were kept out. Why? Because not only could those witnesses not look at Richard Allen and say, he's the guy that was out there that day. He's the guy I saw. He's the guy. That's him. They also could not say, yeah, he's the one I intended to portray in the sketch. Remember the sketch I'm responsible for based on my description? Yeah, he's the one that I attempted to portray in that sketch. So sketches had to go. Then geofencing had to go. Because geofencing, oh man, there's more than 3 phones in the geofencing. I hope you guys understand that. And Monday says, that this motion seems yet another attempt by attorney Andrew Baldwin to push a certain narrative to the public. No, that's hidden true crime Lauren, and that's murder shits, and that's the Carroll County Comment, and that's all your bullshit troll farm channels. Come on, man. Can we be honest here? Who's pushing the narrative to the public? He seems to file these types of motions with very bold allegations that he neither verifies the information nor does he present any evidence. I think the fucking evidence was presented, which is called the letters. But do you see what we're dealing with here? I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or controversial or anything. Kind of like he named most of the group convenient. Yeah. According to Becky Patty, the witnesses weren't trying to describe Richard Allen. So if Richard Allen is bridge guy, who the fuck were they trying to describe and why? Can't make this shit up. Oh yeah. Yeah. Klein searching the marathon station. Klein searching how much time does DNA stay on bodies. Blah, 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 blah. The marathon being right next door to Riley Park. Riley Park being a place Tobe Lesenby was at. You get the whole fucking chain of events here that ain't making sense, or that is making sense. Okay. All right, y'all. Well, I'm done. My throat's shot, and I'm ready to get off of here. But thank you all for being here. This was nice, and wow, that document there. Let me show you the title page again because you guys want to have that document for yourself because it's really good. Okay. All right. Let's see. Go to page 1. There you go. It's called Richard Allen's Verified Reply Memorandum to State of Indiana's Response to Preserve and Produce and Request for Sanctions. It's a long one. But all you need to know is it's filed March 4th, 2025. That's today. Okay, this is hot off the presses, y'all. That's why we're here. Hot off the presses, but you can get this for yourself. Like I said, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Richard Allen's Verified Reply Memorandum to State of Indiana's Response to Preserve and Produce and Request for Sanctions. Anyway, I'll reflect what Amy's saying is thank you for supporting the channel, whether through likes, shares, comments, memberships, or donations. And let me say this for all of you on the replay. I am sad that you missed the live stream. Missing the live stream, you missed my chat, which is the best chat in true crime for sure. I'm certain of it, at least in Delphi. We got no better chat than mine, and I'm confident of it. So I'm so appreciative of you watching the show. Wish you could have made the chat, but you didn't. So please take advantage of the comment section. Make use of it. I love having comments come in, and I always do. I don't beg for them because I'm hard up for comments. Let me just start by saying that. I always get plenty of good comments in the comment section. And I love the comment sections because, you know, let's say tomorrow, for example. Tomorrow, while I'm waking up and drinking coffee, you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to be reading the comments that come in overnight. Yeah. And then after I do my coffee and I do a few other things, have some breakfast or whatever I might do, uh, I'll come back and I'll check again. And there you go. There'll be 10, 15 more comments and I'll read them. And then as I'm working on my show for the next night, um, eventually I'll get to the computer and lo and behold, there you go. There'll be more comments. And sometimes I have to go and approve the nasty ones or I have to delete them if they're really nasty, threatening to kill me. Um, and then the next thing you know, it's time for another show and we'll have another live chat. So I do ask you to make use of the comment section if that's something you'd like to do, because it does make me happy. It keeps me doing this. And also support the channel. We have a I don't know if she put it up here, but we have a where is that thing? What's down here scrolling? I don't need to show it to you. We got a Cash App, okay? That's called Coffee for Prof. And we have a Buy Me a Coffee, which is a monthly support subscription type of service. So we have Buy Me a Coffee, the Prof's crew. So the Cash App and the Buy Me a Coffee, those are my absolute favorite preferred ways to receive your donations. If you'd like to donate to the channel, I truly appreciate it. It helps the channel out. And you can also leave super chat, super thanks, things like that. Hit the like button, share it with your friends who would be interested in such comments or content. I do appreciate having you all here. And I got to tell you, this case is just personally, this case is so disturbing to me because I had plans before making this channel. I had plans which did not include being exclusively Delphi for such a long period of time. And I would love to do more and do other things. And I'm telling you, it's just this case is so concerning to me that it's hard to move on and to do other things because until there's some resolution to this, I feel like I'm not doing all I can and fulfilling my responsibility. So it's kind of difficult because I'm ready to move on and do other things. And the fact that this is still so problematic and troublesome and just hangs over our heads like a dark cloud, it's not at all resolved. It's ongoing. It makes it impossible to do anything else. And it sucks because I'm ready for this to be finalized and to move on to other things. But unfortunately for now, we're still in the thickest part of this. So still like to thank you for being here and supporting me through this thick part of this. Okay. Andy B., you laid a solid foundation to expose highly unprofessional misconduct, cover up, multi-breaches by state, abuse of their position powers intentionally is outrageous. Thank you. All right, who else we got? There are so many F-ups that we've forgotten a lot of the effery. Well, that's what I said in my show last night. I said, it's hard to ever keep any of this all in your mind at once because there's so much of it. You can't even keep it all in mind. You have to just keep going down the list. Let's see who else we got in here. Sunflower Soul. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Sunflower Soul. Thank you, L'Oreal. Thank you, Mark Ellis. Mark Ellis with a super chat. $50 super chat. Keep doing good job, Prof. Thank you, Mark Ellis. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Mark. Very much. We also got super chats from Jake Brooks and Deb. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb, for supporting the channel. And thank you, Jake Brooks, Popcorn Worthy Prof. Thank you, Jake Brooks and Deb and Mark Ellis. Okay. Good night, Prof and chat. You are the best. Thank you, Prof. Possum. Thank you, Prof. And those who are assisting, y'all are amazing. Yes. And by the way, I have some volunteers to help me with a couple things, and I just have to get the ball rolling on that. But I had a few people reach out to help, and you know who you are in the chat. Thank you so much for reaching out to help. And we will be getting the ball rolling on those plans we have. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mark Ellis. You're such a great person. Gretchen, thank you, Gretchen. Sunflower Soul, this is the best chat. Yes, it is, and I'm proud of that. And I brag about it. Okay. Mino Dino says, Shibby, you better charge up tonight. What the hell are y'all talking about? Y'all got plans? We get scolded. You do. You do. Especially when you're refusing to take in information. Take it in first, then make your judgment calls. All right. Thank you, Leanne85. You got my back? I got yours. Whose ear's been slacking? Okay, who we got here? We got Coach Cruz says good night. Good night, Coach Cruz. Coffee for Profy. That's what it is, yo. Coffee for Profy in the Love Shack. All right. Shack Attack. Cody, Derek, Shack. That's the other unmentionables. Remember that one? Dirty Diana. All right. It's good that we don't let the case go. That's what I'm saying. You're all the best. Oh, Amy's the best. Yeah, Amy is the best. She's the best mod. All right. Fur Baby Daddy in the house. Trial Junkie in the house. Don't dox me in the house. All right. Marianne Foster, appreciate you, Prof. Thank you for standing strong for justice. Thank you, Marianne Foster. You guys show me so much love in this chat. I just can't even read them all. I'm keep skipping around because there's so many. I can't keep going. All right. Say hi to us here in the second room. What's up, little channel? Are you in the backup channel? Okay. Hello, everybody in the small channel. The small channel has the calm chat. So if you like the chat to be calm, Christina says, I'm constantly having to add to my notes of lies and unlawful things. I'm always surprised by things I've forgotten that have occurred. Yes, that's what I'm saying. You can't, girl, we need a notebook. We need an actual notebook. Can you imagine how thick that notebook would be? Unbelievable. I watch trials and always end up digging into them. Is that where you're coming from, Trial Junkie? Well, it's good to have you here in this community, okay? Oh, yeah, big thank you for the reminder, 5 Green Acres. Thank you for all the Delphi community members who contact me and want to expose shit. Yeah, like that article I read to you at the introduction. That came from a Delphi local. Okay, the very first thing I read to you about the process, the appeals. Let me read her name again. Let me say, who we talking about here? I'm going to say her name right. Just give me a moment. I'm coming. Give me a moment. All right, where is it? Yeah, we're going to reiterate this. From Marion County, we're talking about Adrienne Mehring. Adrienne Mehring, the executive director of the Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission. Do you guys understand how big that is? Okay, Adrienne Mehring. You understand? That's big. Executive director of the Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission. She's being charged with lawfare and abuse of her position. Do you understand how big that is? Executive director. But that was sent by me to me by a local from Delphi this morning, and that local was very excited about that But you can also go Google that up, and you'll find the reporting. I didn't put it on the screen. I didn't think to do it and have time to do it on the fly, so I just read it out to you. But like I said, that may be the tipping point that leads to some dominoes falling, because she's executive director of the Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission. I mean, that's a big person there in Indiana in the criminal justice system, right? Possum Friend says, I like the chat wild. And it's also Profi Poo. That's Profi Poo to my girls. Okay. Come here for the prof, stay for the chat. All right. I'm fighting for those poor girls, and only for those poor girls. That's what I consistently say. I don't care about these attorneys. I'm not fighting for Baldwin and Rozzi. They are grown men. I'm not fighting for Richard Allen. He's a grown man, and he has attorneys and all of this. I'm not fighting for the Patties. I'm not fighting for Anna Williams or Carrie Timmons or any fucking body else. I'm fighting for two people who are not here to fight for themselves. Okay. All right, y'all. I love when the chats get out of hand. Okay, y'all. Yeah, there she is. Indiana Supreme Court Disciplinary Commission's executive director. She's in a world of trouble if anything is done, unless the corrupted system's going to let her off. But I think she's in for a world of scrutiny, at least. Okay, like all of these people should be. I know, Shibby. I know why you joke. I know why you do. That's why I allow you to get away with it. Right. Yeah, it's huge. Anyway, hopefully some will come of it. Google it up, and you'll be able to read it for yourself. Andrea and Mary. Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here again. This was called Debunking the State, i.e., this is not normal. This is not normal. And that's all I got to say. I don't know what you did today, but I wrote Todd Rokita a very compelling letter today. So look, I'm not saying it works, but do what you can do. Okay, I love you guys. We'll see you later. Let me say goodbye to those who are saying goodbye. I see you saying goodbye. Big thank you to the people helping and reaching out to Team Prof. Yes, please email me. If you got anything you want to send to me, feel free to email me. I love my emails. Okay. Hot dogs and taco time. Thank you, Heather Brown. All right. All right, y'all, I'm out of here. I see everyone saying good night. Good night to you. Special shout out Mark Ellis again, and Jake Brooks and Miss Deb for the super chats and the thumbs up. And if anyone who sent me a Cash App or a Buy Me a Coffee, including my friend who said she subscribed to the membership on Buy Me a Coffee, thank you for doing that. God bless you all. We love you. Pray for yourselves. Pray for Happy and Libby. And hide your kids. Hide your wife. All right, we're out of here. Good night.
you